All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 36 of Creative Collaborations Conversation with Veronica and Jillian. Hey, Jillian, how are you?
I am well today. How's it going with you?
Good. I had a shock realizing that we are halfway through the year
I
and it's
know, just like
finally
that.
summer. Yeah.
I know. I know.
And
I know.
what a better moment to discuss about where we are with our business and what should we look like and where
Mm-hmm.
we should look to see if we are in line with what we set up to achieve
I
the
know.
beginning of the year than now that we are at the middle of the year. Even if people are thinking about holidays, and maybe this is an extra reason to
Mm-hmm.
know what to do, especially when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think so. And I feel like it's so cliche, but it's so strange that it's suddenly we're looking at the second half of the year. It's like I feel like it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about our goals for this year, and just happens. I think they say it happens faster and faster the older we get. And so maybe that's what I'm experiencing right now. But it's like, yeah, suddenly we're halfway through the year. And so it's certainly a good time to revisit our businesses and, um, and maybe our lives to see where we're at compared to what our objectives or goals were to start the year. So yeah, I feel like it's a juicy topic for us to jump into, but seems the timing is appropriate.
Yeah, and especially everyone is thinking about holidays, and I know it's a difference. We kept on discussing this, the difference between the American culture and the
Yep,
European culture. And
for
we were
sure.
chatting before we press record, the record button. Um, Here in the Netherlands, at least, and in Europe, actually, you do see countries like Italy or Spain where they do close everything for 1 month, like August,
Yeah,
that month,
yeah.
don't even think about doing business. And it's not the case for all the countries. Like here, definitely you still do business, but everything is slowing down. So people do
Hmm.
take time to go and be with the family or visit friends or be on holiday and actually recharge. However,
Hmm.
we kept on discussing, and we have several episodes about entrepreneurship and how the entrepreneurial life affects your private life. That actually
Hmm.
is not, you can't really separate them. And maybe those could be good points for people that are going or heading towards the holiday. How do you approach that as an entrepreneur? How is that
Hmm.
affecting what you're doing? And what will be the energy that we again kept on discussing about? How is that impacting your energy, but as well as the activities that you need to do moving towards the end
Hmm.
of the year? The next
Hmm.
usually is the most busiest part of the year, actually,
Mm.
second half of the year.
It's funny that you say this because actually just this morning I was at the gym and listening to a podcast, and suddenly it made me think about this. I knew we were recording this episode today, and I was thinking about the summer holiday and exactly what you're saying, how here I mean, compared to other places, like you mentioned, it's still other countries, there is still work happening here. But it's certainly quite a bit different than the culture I'm used to, the work culture in the US. So that's the caveat to this. So I found myself thinking, oh, look at that. This summertime is finally here. I'll be able to catch up on things and work. And it's like using the time to be able to really dig into where I'm at and to very intentionally set up Qs 3 and 4. So I was thinking about that. But then there's also that other side, which is kind of, I think, what you're alluding to, which is, yeah, how also to, at least for me, I'm trying to better kind of acclimate to life and culture here, and to also not overwork based on my new environment, and trying to strike that balance, because I do now understand and really appreciate the downtime, and I can see so much value with that now. So I'm certainly not planning to work extra hours through the summer holidays, but I am thinking a bit about utilizing this time to really recalibrate and be very deliberate moving into the second half of the year.
Mhm. Um, I was thinking there are two ways to go around it, just to give general advice or what I can do, and I'm okay to share how I will do it personally for spin ideas for my business.
Mm-hmm.
Considering what I set up at the beginning of the year and how do I move everything towards the second of the year. Because it's true, for me, July is still quite busy, but August, as I said, is quiet. And it's better it's actually not that quiet, but it's quieter. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a good moment to actually see what do I want to do. For example, for me, July and August will be super busy with promoting the new program that we just launched, the Marketing
Mm-hmm.
Accelerator that we kept on discussing for the last episodes. By the way, it's live, and
Yay,
we are
yay,
kicking off
yay.
the first cohort. And we are also very busy creating and promoting the base conference. That they do go hand in hand. One is the best way to actually get everyone together and have them talk and interact and learn from each other. So for me, the first part is more, okay, what's happening? Let's implement and let's create. And the second part is more about implementation, getting the new clients and working actively towards that, and organizing events, because that's one of the best places, the best. I'm sorry, I can't find my words today.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's
Monday.
Monday. Can you believe Monday?
I know.
It's one of the best parts of the year for events. But if I think better about it, there are so many events happening in the second part of the year that maybe we should focus towards the beginning of the year. But it's also mentality, because people are gonna come. The weather, at least in the Netherlands, is really bad. So people need interaction. They need something to keep them going. Otherwise, it gets very depressing. And that's again a cultural thing, but also the outside influences you. And how do I approach everything? So we kept on discussing, and I know you are the one that very good with actually saying the number of the episode. I always towards the middle of the year, I go back to the goals that I set up at the beginning of the year, and see from those how much did I actually achieve so far, and where do I stand with the rest. For example, I'm quite on time with the accelerator, maybe a couple of weeks late if I'm totally honest.
Yeah.
I am there.
Close.
I'm there. Yeah. But there are other things that we wanted to do that we are quite behind. So for me, it's a moment to see why that didn't happen. We don't have enough manpower, or maybe we lost interest in that particular direction, because it's a specific service that we wanted to promote more, but we realized we don't really sell it so much. So for me, it will be taking the time to see we are not selling it because us as a company, we are not attracted to it anymore. So we want to create something else. Or the market is not that interested in it because there's something very important and we just need to let it go or switch it. Or what, actually, these are the two scenarios.
Yeah.
And maybe we didn't promote it enough. Maybe none of this, but maybe we didn't create enough content. Because looking back, I have to admit, we are behind with creating content, for example. We are good on the social media, but in terms of creating content, in terms of articles, we did create, but not as many as we planned. So this is how we do it at Spin. I'm curious, how do you do it at Jillian's?
Yeah. So it reminds me, as you were describing that, I had a visual of somebody that like, left a beach and started swimming, saw like an island or something off in the distance and decided, oh, I'm going to start swimming there. But like you start swimming and you know where you're going. I'm going in this direction. You start swimming. But, at some point, it's a good idea to kind of pick your head up to see, where am I going? Have the currents taken me this way? Or, was it actually not an island? Was it a boat and it's now gone? Or, whatever. So it's kind of prudent to pick our heads up to see. And so for you, because you started the year with very, tangible, specific kind of deliverables, things that you wanted to build and launch. So it sounds like this kind of scenario of like the swimmer picking their head up is relevant. So it seems like this moment right now, this kind of summertime, is a good summertime check-in, pick the head up, assess where are we at. For me, it's slightly different because I, as we've talked about previously, I've been, um, yeah, in an exhilarating and sometimes painful way, very deliberately and actively exploring my next iteration and how to insert myself into the business community here in the Netherlands and also in Europe, et cetera, and trying to decide what type of business structure is best for me and et cetera, et cetera. So I've been continuing to build business while also keeping, my eyes and ears open and exploring lots of different opportunities. So in a way, for me, it's a little bit of a different, I'll use another beach analogy. It's kind of like, yeah, for much of this year, I've been collecting rocks and seashells kind of thing. And so now my pockets are full. And so now it's time to lay them out and explore. And so deciding, which ones are the keepers and which ones do I, skip back into the ocean kind of a thing. So that's a bit
Creating
where
the
I'm,
puzzle moments.
yeah, it is. And so there's kind of two ways that I'm doing that. And I think hopefully some of these will be applicable to other people. Maybe it will make sense. So the first thing is I look at kind of qualitatively, right? So I look at things like what events have I gone to that really resonated with me so far? What people have I met? What conversations have I had? What organizations have really, clicked for me, that make me feel like this is the right place. These are the people I want to work with. I want more of this, and this is where I want to incorporate this some way into my, this next iteration. So I look at the qualitative part, but then it's also looking at the quantitative pieces of things. So what activities, right? What activities or campaigns have actually led to new opportunities, either new clients or new partnerships, etc. And so I'm doing that as well. So looking for me, it's been the most productive kind of, we'll just call efforts, is because it's a bit of a mix. Number one is events and networking for sure. But second to that, I would say it's a maybe a tie, but social media and specifically LinkedIn has been quite productive for me, as has my newsletter. So my newsletter has also been, productive. So I look at some of those things. So again, the qualitative and then the quantitative.
What do you define by being productive in terms of leads, in terms of discussions?
Yes, lead. So it's productive. For me, I feel like it's productive if there's, I guess something to show for it, right? If there's some response, some sort of traction. So that's how I think of it.
Yeah. And that's a good segue actually to KPIs, because how do we measure everything? And you kind of already start saying that, and I mentioned the accelerator of things, different things, and it's very definitely you do need to listen a little bit to your gut feeling, like how do you feel about it, but you do need to look at the numbers, because the numbers never lie, and sometimes our imagination or our mind can make something bigger than it is, because maybe we are just very in love with that particular project or idea. However, the reality is, if you really, for example, a specific service that I need to see what is happening with it, you need to look at the numbers. You need to see why is that happening? Am I not promoting it enough? Or am I promoting it, but the reaction from the audience, like you mentioned in the newsletter, in the social media or partnerships, is it high enough? What's happening with that? And that's actually what I invite every listener to do. You need to go and see what are you doing, what is working, but also what is not working. And we can take the learnings from what is working and applying them moving forward. But you can't really take what is working and apply to something that is not working without doing further investigations why that particular activity is not working.
Yes, sure. I think, so midway, again, another reason why this is an important time and step in the kind of life cycle, or in the business, is because of number one, like we'd said, we need to see if we're off track. But number two, we might have shifted, or our, the business
Yeah.
landscape or something industry wide or whatever, something may have shifted as well. So it's a really good time to look at both things and say, okay, do we still have the same goals, objectives? Have they changed? Is there something new that has emerged that we weren't counting on early in the year?
Yeah.
And so really, I think it is prudent to look at, yes, the KPIs that were set previously, to revisit those. I mean, a KPI is great, but if you're not collecting the data along the way, it becomes, or it's not clean data, et cetera, it's not as great, or becomes a bigger project than it ought to be. So I think it's also a good time to continue to prune the KPIs and what are the mechanisms by which we're collecting the data from those, so we can, kind of, make data driven decisions, and as opposed to working only off of memory or gut. Because
Yeah.
gut can be helpful sometimes, and memory, I don't know about yours, but mine is like touch and go. So it's
Well,
always
memories,
nice to,
I'm not gonna count
yeah,
on them. That's definitely not,
yeah,
not
no.
the way to
Uh,
go.
but it's like, it seems like we can do that. We often think like, oh yeah, I'll remember, but then we don't, right? So it
No,
is kind
you
of good to
never
go
do
back
that.
and look. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't. So I think it is really prudent to look, based on data,
Yeah.
of the things that we're doing, the things that the SKUs, the deliverables, the offers, the things that people can buy from us, what have you.
Mhm.
Which are the better performing? Which ones are most in alignment with how you feel about your business now, the direction you want to go? And yeah, and the specifics. So um, a lot of business owners, companies, organizations I've worked with don't always know the exact numbers as well. They just have general idea, or they know
I'd
the
say that's the
revenue per.
90% of the companies.
Yeah, they know the revenue per, but not
Mhm.
the expenses and not the capacity. So it's a really important time to be able to look at, okay, what are the things that we're creating traction with? And are these the things that we want to create traction with, and be able to figure out, what are those lead sources, and kind of, yeah, figure out what's driving those engines, and then make those decisions, and then double down on the things that are in alignment with what you want, and what has been, yeah, I keep using the word productive, but what has been, you know what has worked so far.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily productive, but profitable.
Yeah, I mean, profitable is key. Again, if people have the numbers, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Often they don't as much.
Well, people tend to, they say they are productive, but I'm not really sure if they know what that means.
Mm,
Because for them, being productive maybe is creating social media content. But if you don't
mm,
go and measure it, as you said,
yeah,
doesn't mean you are productive. You are busy, because
right,
productive is if you create something that actually produces results, in my
right,
perspective.
right. Yeah, and it's
If
like
you
the cause
closely.
effect. It's the
Yes.
cause effect, but we need to know what the effects are, which is, yeah, what are we
Mhm.
trying to create? What's the result we're trying to create? And
Exactly. And
then
these are
what are the
different
things that,
tactics that you're
yeah,
using. Which one is actually, like you mentioned, and I love that the networking events and different social media. And I agree with you that for me also events, conferences are the ones that work the best. But how do you measure that? Like, do you know
mm-hmm,
how many people you spoke with? How many people you followed up? How many
yep,
offers did you send? And so on and
mm-hmm,
so forward.
mm-hmm,
And we discussed this in different episodes, so I do invite people to go back and actually listen to that, because it's not that we don't have anything else to talk, but it's very important to go and look at the numbers.
mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And this is an example, I think a very simple and very tangible example of something that we can very easily incorporate into our workflows that can be
Mhm.
very helpful later on, specifically around events. And for me, events sometimes can be, we'll call blurry, right? Because event can be online or offline. And then it can be a webinar or a workshop, or it can be an online summit or whatever. So anything that you, yeah, go to. It can be a business lunch with people, whatever your thing is that you're going to. It's like outside of your regular work. It's a separate thing, kind of it. Um, yeah, so I keep track of each of those, and afterwards I have automatically scheduled in my calendar to do my, yeah, my kind of post-mortem about it. And so all the people that I met there, I tag in my CRM. So I know that's where I met them. And then I set up the cadence of when I want to follow up with those people. And then I do my, the qualitative piece. Like, was this an event I would go to again? I look at how much the event was. Was it free or was it paid? And then see, would I go to this again? Did I get the value, et cetera, et cetera. So I keep track of those as they go, because then when I'm doing my planning for next year, I can look at this and see, oh, what events might I want to proactively add to my calendar for next year? And which ones may I let just kind of fall by the wayside, et cetera. So when you do that, it's really helpful to know, especially when you're looking at budget in terms of money and also in
Yeah.
time. Like, what do we
What comes
budget
back.
towards events? Yeah,
And here
exactly.
it's good actually to look at the numbers as well, because there are a lot of events where you go because it's a fun event and you meet people that you know, but does that make sense for your business? Because you can still, like, depends how you treat it. That doesn't mean don't go to that event, but don't treat it
Right.
as a business event. So it's the mindset should be different, and the budget that you allocate should be different, or from different pockets, let's say.
So what about other things that are like more external things for, I'll say, your business rhetorically, or just our businesses? I think that sometimes these are more conventional and perhaps easier to set up and to ascertain, right? So things like web performance, or the impact of your social media presence or your newsletter, or things like that, subscriptions, etc. Is that something that, do you do that proactively or not? Do you advocate for that? Do you not? Or what say
Look at the
you?
numbers. Yes, we do that. And funny that you said subscriptions. Actually, what I'm in process of actually looking at all the tools that we pay
Hmm.
for. And recently I did that and stopped paying a subscription for some of them, because I realized we actually paid a lot of money per year to some specific tools that we don't really use. And you don't realize we are so used to having like the monthly business cost, like the normal cost of running a business. And it comes and it just keeps on going. But sometimes, especially when you're switching, now, I said we launch different systems and things like that, services that require different systems. So that means, do I still need what I used to work with, or what changed? What do I need to, like, do I need to use X or do I need to go to Z, like different SEO systems, for example, or things like that? What are the services that I'm offering the most, and what do I need to improve in delivering those services, and what I'm not using that much? Can I actually switch from a monthly subscription to pay when I need? Things like that.
So what about, and again, you can answer this for yourself. It doesn't have to be, or it can just be in general, or working with clients, what have you. I'm just curious also about, or I guess I'll just speak directly and then you can chime in
Yeah.
if it's relevant for you. But I think when I was saying subscriptions, I was also talking about like newsletter subscriptions, right? So
You
looking
being
at things
subscribed
like,
to newsletters, you mean?
or people subscribing to our newsletters. Yeah. So whether it's your separate newsletter, is it your LinkedIn newsletter, your social media following, maybe it's the events, et cetera, or your active kind of reach out, your outbound sales calls or outbound marketing efforts, et cetera, to look at those things and what the correlation is. For example, or it's sometimes hard to know if we get a new lead or a really good prospect, or if you're, depending on what type of business, if you're dealing with volumes,
Yeah.
sometimes, anyway,
It's
it's
hard
some
to see when
variation.
that volume is
It's
very
hard to
high.
know. But if you meet somebody, like they may have seen you on LinkedIn before, or seen your company, or seen something, but they don't always know. People aren't always accurate reporters of things, but it's interesting to see what the correlations are. So I was working with one client and they had more volume. So we were looking at what is the correlation, the relationship between the number of subscribers and downloads of their app to their revenue or revenue opportunities, and to see, because if you can start to chart these things, I mean, history isn't always, it's not always a crystal ball for what's coming. but generally you can start to understand trends, et cetera, can be helpful. So I think, yeah, so in terms of
It's a good
KPIs
point.
is,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a good
starting to
point.
look at those.
We do that, for example, we are running the online networking with the spin events every month.
Mm-hmm,
And we do notice and we do promote them actively. So we have different channels where we promote them, but one of the channels is LinkedIn, and that works
mm-hmm,
very well for us.
mm-hmm,
And we do reach more and more people because we do have the expert that is always a different expert. And of course, that
mm-hmm.
comes with the network. Um, and it's very interesting to see during that period, the promotional period, that you see an increase in the people that subscribe via the website because the link takes them there. So we do look at that because you do need to
Yeah.
know what is working and what is not working, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely it's working. We don't work with such a big amount of numbers.
Right.
When, for example, now we partnered, that we are the official, one of the official partners of the milestone, that they are organizing the AI meetup, global
Mm-hmm.
meetup. They have events in over 11 countries, and we are their partners for the Amsterdam. And of course, you see
Yeah.
a big
Spike.
amount of people coming because of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will be able, now we are measuring because, for example, as said, we launched the accelerator, so they will be
Mm-hmm.
included. We are preparing now as I'm speaking, my team is
Yeah.
preparing the newsletter, for example.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big difference between big numbers, huge
Right.
volume,
Right.
lower volume, and this is also relative, because when you say high volume, I'm seeing like 10,000 up will be for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But somebody, for example, will gonna send it to around 700 people. For me, that's not necessarily big volume, but for others can
Right.
be big volume.
Right. Right. Yeah. It depends. Yeah. The numbers, it depends on what you're selling. And there's a lot of kind of variables here, but,
Exactly.
yeah, it's fair. And a lot of like more service oriented businesses, you may, I mean, if you got, 100 clients, it'd probably be like, it depends on what you're selling and how you deliver that, yeah, that value, et cetera,
Exactly.
to
But
be calculated.
what we are doing, the marketing strategy implementation, the program and everything, and what you are offering as well, they are more targeted and customized. So we do serve a higher number of clients, but not a huge one. So actually we
Mm-hmm.
are relatively small when it comes in terms of number of clients, and how many
Mm-hmm.
clients are we able to serve at a given moment,
Mm-hmm.
because we are fine with 10 clients per month, but if you give us 20, then we have an issue, because
Right.
we
Right.
need to make sure we have the manpower in place. And
Right.
honestly, if
Exactly.
tomorrow I have to deliver to 20 clients, I'm not able to do that. So
Right.
probably I can build it up, but
Right.
it
So
depends
I
what
love
you
this.
want.
Yeah, I love this conversation. It's highly relevant as well. Reminds me, so I have a sustainable growth program that's ongoing with clients in it and working. We do 90-day sprints, et cetera, and it's digging through a lot of the stuff. And what I'm finding is, and it reminds me of several conversations that we've had, namely about, talking about the zebra, being a zebra, and
Mhm.
talking with these business owners about, what are they trying to achieve, right? Like what type of revenue do they need for their business, or what type of income do they want for themselves, and what is the relationship between those two? How many hours a week do they want to work, etc. And then using some of these specific numbers to then create like this master. Yeah, it's just math. I always tell them this is really simple. It's just
It
math.
is math. Yes.
But being able to look at things, and I think really much of this conversation is really about building a sustainable business. It's
Yes.
having the mindset and learning building the muscle memory of the things to do to build a business that is sustainable.
Yeah.
And so those are the things why, if you know what your KPIs are, and you'll continue to evolve on those. So having, starting with some and then looking periodically at predetermined intervals and looking to see what is the data telling us, what is going on. So I have this one client, it reminds me, she has way too many SKUs. So it's like way too many things. So now we're consolidating those, and now we can see she can actually double her pricing. So now she can do better revenue, like double the revenue and half the clients or half the work. It's
Mhm.
really interesting. So you can start to make very specific tweaks to the business when you have this put in place. So I think it's, to me, it's exciting. I love this type of conversation.
And
This is really how you can grow.
I love the word sustainability, and I want to that has double meaning. So one is the sustainability part where we about the SDGs and EGS and everything, but sustainability means also to be able to grow in a consistent way for us. So for example, base where we have build, advance, sustain, elevate, the sustainability part is about the health of the business and how you grow. Because if you're not able to grow in a sustainable way financially and from the resources point of view, you'll not be able to succeed, because you're going to burn yourself out if you try to do everything, or you're not going to be able to deliver. So you're affecting the quality of your work. So it's I want to invite people, like, be aware of the meaning of sustainability, because when you say sustainability, everyone thinks about the ecological part or the social part, and that's very important, but it's much more than that.
Yeah, so I talk about sustainable growth, so that it doesn't, because if it's not sustainable, it's unsustainable, right? Or unsustainable.
Unsustainable.
So yeah, so that would be like you just talked about. So burning out. And the other thing that's very relevant to being able to kind of to build this or to achieve this is to also know your capacity situation.
Yeah.
So it's really critical to know, and that's one of the numbers that we need to figure out. So it's not just, it's like, yeah, if your team, maybe product X or whatever, service X is your most profitable, but it takes up 95% of your team's capacity. Whereas, service Y is maybe not as profitable, but you can scale that more. So you need to be able to know what's the capacity situation, and then always looking to build capacity, but not in unlimited fashion, building the capacity to meet the objectives of the business or the business owner
And I would
really the
like
goal.
to add one more thing. It's I love how you placed it. So if the majority of your resources go to just one client or two clients, that they bring a lot of the revenue, it's actually not sustainable. What happens if that decides to stop? Then
correct,
you are in a big, you are financially in big trouble.
You're exposed.
And also, what's the stress level that is put on your company? And I'm not talking only about the financial stress, but also everyone is focusing on that. Are they still creative enough for other things? Are they able to think about something else to create or to just produce? So I think it's and it's something that I'm learning, to be honest. So it's not that I have all the answers. It's something that I'm also learning and looking around and exploring to see what's that balance. And I don't think talking with people around me is smarter than me. I'm realizing there's not a good way or a bad way to do it. It differs from company to company, and it's a constant learning curve, because everyone is different. So what works in a company may not work in a different one.
That's right.
But there are some principles, like the core principles that we just discussed here, that if you follow them, then you find your own way there. And I think when we were discussing about the gut feeling, I think here is where the gut feeling works. Like, how can you better utilize your resources based on the numbers, and based on, because when you work with people, you look at the numbers, but you can't really take out their feelings and how they feel and how they interact and how they work and communicate. And there you need, I think, the leadership skills come into place here. How do you manage that?
Absolutely. I think leadership, and then of course I'm going to say in data, because we're also doing this, like, by having conversations, again, predetermined, like regular scheduled conversations, and also kind of anonymous surveying as well of your team, like a couple of different strategies work, but to find out what's the capacity of your team individually, and what is their appetite, and how do they want to grow. And if you're building your business are you building your business based on the lowest common denominator, or are you building your business based on pushing them to the max, etc.? So that goes into the capacity situation as well, which I think overall, I think there's one way to think about this episode or this conversation really is, it's, to control the things that we can control.
Yes. And to have space for flexibility.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think, so I would say, my way to wrap this up would be in terms of thinking about, we're halfway through the year. What are our KPIs? Are we on target? Are we not, et cetera? So I think, and just building business in general and the mindset around it. So I think number one, be creative and be patient, but also be proactive.
That's a beautiful way. I would add to this, everyone is doing now team buildings and outings with the company or their employees. There's a reason for that. So I would add, go and make sure you have check-ins with your team and stakeholders.
Yes.
So that being clients, that being people working in your team, either for you or with you, depending on how you're structured, different partners, and that partnership we haven't discussed, but that applies the same everything that we discussed. And that's very important to see where you are and if you're still aligned and how do you want to move forward. And I think that's a wrap up. It was a long episode.
Yeah, this was. So yeah, that's a wrap on 36. So hopefully you dig into your kind of KPIs and have a look at your business, see if you're on target or not, and make the adjustments necessary so that you can be at a place that you're happy with come December. Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Cheers.